Hello and what's up, RSC Pokemon Challenges fam? How are you guys doing? We are back with another episode, and it's going to potentially be an absolute bloodbath here today, trying to take on Roxanne. Last time we ran all of the Gen 1, Gen 2, and Gen 3 starters with their evolved forms. We ended up getting 17 Pokemon legitimately through Roxanne. That included Blaziken as a Pokemon that did get the job done, but we had 10 challengers that simply could not pass. It was kind of obvious that the fire types would struggle, but I was really surprised that Totodile and Crocodile got no water type moves and therefore just got wrecked in this section. And today we might just have an even worse setup than that, because we're coming in with 21 challengers. That includes the entire Caterpie line, the Weedle line, the Pidgey line, the Rattata line, the Spearow line, the Sentret line, the Hoothoot line, the Poochyena line, and the Zigzagoon line. Tons and tons of flying and normal type Pokemon that I highly expect will not get moves that are strong enough to actually get through here. The Butterfree is going to be 4 times weak to Rock, which is probably going to get wrecked. Beedrill doesn't have any good moves, and I'm honestly just not sure if maybe Mightyena will be able to get through this, but otherwise, this could actually be the first time in the history of me doing Minimum Battle series on YouTube that we have an episode where not a single Pokemon actually gets through the gym leader. We're going to have to dive into this and see, and it's going to start off with that Butterfree. Let's get into it and see if this can work, but I'm not feeling confident. Now, of course, if you want to review the rules for this, go back and watch episode 1. I did a massive rules breakdown in that episode. But for today, we're just going to be starting with our Butterfree and trying to do the best that we can. Of course, even if Butterfree doesn't fail for some reason, I think we can guarantee that Caterpie and Metapod are out of here, so we're not really going to worry about those Pokemon. Now, just the Cliff Notes reminder, we are running on max IVs here, and we are running with a hardy nature on all of our Pokemon. Held items are allowed, but items in battle are not. Basically, we're not allowed to open the bag. People were asking in the last episode about the Zigzagoon. I will be treating it as required since you do always have to encounter it, so you may as well knock it out. There are some Pokemon that can't avoid knocking out. There's some Pokemon that won't be able to knock it out. But generally speaking, if I have the option, I'm going to KO that Pokemon to just get through that fight and get a little extra experience. I don't think it's going to make a massive difference in the long run, but we'll just have to see. The much bigger thing in this episode is that we're not running in the medium slow level up group with most of these Pokemon. So in this case, we're going to be at a lower level when we get to Roxanne, and that could be an issue. So here I'm going to get the Butterfree in the Trico Ball today. Let's just see what its starting moveset is in Gen 3. It starts with Confusion, so that is the same as Gen 1 and Gen 2. It gives us a little hope that maybe we could deal some damage with Confusion status. The problem is that we're going to have to go up against a Poochyena here pretty quickly, and Confusion's not going to affect that Pokemon. So unless we can get to Struggle, there's going to be no way that we could actually get through this. So first things first, let's just go take on May so that we can use Confusion to knock her out. We'll use up as much PP as we can here, and then we're going to have to get into that Poochyena fight and see if there's any way to progress. So here against the Torchic, we just go for Confusion. It looks like it's going to be a 4-hit KO, but really not too bad. We even confuse it at the end, and obviously Growl means nothing here, so we managed to get through that fight perfectly fine. But now we have to see if we can get through the next trainer or not. This could be really, really tough. So I am going to use a free potion to heal my Butterfree just to get it to maximum health. And I'm going to see how much PP I can actually use up against this first youngster. Maybe he just goes Howl enough turns and allows me to get to Struggle, but I highly doubt it. I think it's very likely that we're going to end up fainting right here. We, of course, still have 21 PP in Confusion, so we're just going to have to see if this can work or not. So youngster Calvin, attempt number 1. Let's go for Confusion. Obviously, it doesn't affect the Poochyena, but if it just goes Howl enough times, we might be able to get through here. Of course, when it tackles, it's doing significant damage. We don't have access to Oran Berries at this point, so there's really nothing that we could do against this Pokemon when you only have a Psychic type move. Here, once it gets a bunch of Howls off, it's just going to knock us out nice and easy before we got anywhere close to using up all of our PP. So in these cases, I'm going to do just like I did in the previous series in Gen 2, where I'm going to allow my Pokemon to go up against wild Pokemon and use up its PP so long as it never knocks the opponent out, thereby resulting in getting experience points. Just because I want to see if we were allowed to struggle here, would we eventually be able to get through? Obviously, this relies on using up a bunch of PP against wild Pokemon and then using potions to get our HP back. So we'll have to spend some of our money to go back and buy some potions in order to make this work. But we can see that there are things like wild Poochyenas here that would allow a Psychic type to use up Psychic type PP and then eventually run away with getting no XP from that Pokemon. Is it technically minimum battles at this point? No, but it is staying on fairly close to minimal experience, which is why I'm going to allow this option. Of course, these Pokemon will be separated out from the Pokemon that legitimately passed this section, but I just want to see how many Psychic types could actually get through if they were simply able to get past the first youngster by using struggle strats. I'm pretty sure that we will be able to struggle that Pokemon down, but we'll also have to struggle against the Aqua Grunt in Petalburg Woods. So this isn't necessarily going to be pretty here. Still, Butterfree does manage to use up all of its PP. We can run away from these wild Pokemon after that, which we're at a higher level and faster. We should always be able to run away, and we can use our potion to get our HP back. But now we're going back into the youngster Calvin fight with a Butterfree that can use struggle. Let's just see if this gets this Pokemon through or not. So youngster Calvin attempt number 2 with a struggling Butterfree. We can see that our struggle did 6 damage here, and with that, it's only going to be a 3-hit KO against this Pokemon, which means with struggle, Butterfree can get through that fight with no additional XP, getting to level 6 right here. So at the very least, we can say that Butterfree doesn't legitimately even get through the first trainer after May on minimum battles, but it does have the ability to struggle there if it just used up its PP against wild Pokemon without gaining any additional XP. Now, we will be at a lower level than the Poochyena that is used by the Team Aqua Grunt, so I'm kind of interested to see how that will work out. Obviously, Butterfree's not a really strong physical attacker, so that could affect things a little bit here. We're just going to have to see how this goes. So I'm just going to make sure to go into this fight with full HP and see if I can actually get a victory here. So here against the first Team Aqua Grunt in Petalburg Woods with his Poochyena that's at level 9. Struggle here does 5 damage, meaning this is a 5-hit KO. We took pretty decent damage from its first tackle. It goes Howl after that. We also get Sand attacked here, but we are whittling this Pokemon down. If we can just manage one more hit. Sure enough, Butterfree does manage to get through that fight, getting to level 7. So once again, struggle strats do come in. Like I said, these Pokemon are going to be in a completely separate group from the official passers on minimum battles, but they will stay in the challenge. But even with that, will it be enough to actually get through Roxanne with this Butterfree? I'm honestly not super convinced. Still, I will try to take on the hiker Devin just to see if we can get a little extra XP and what level we can actually get to. Will we get to level 8 with these medium fast Pokemon? The reason why level 8 would be relevant is because it still represents a damage rounding threshold for Pokemon. Levels that end in 0, 3, 5, or 8 tend to cause you to do just a little more damage due to how damage rounding happens in the Pokemon games. I'm not sure how relevant that is still here in Gen 3, but it was definitely a big factor in Gen 1 and Gen 2, and I believe it persists into Gen 3 as well. So I'm just going to try to take this fight and hopefully get a level up here. Let's see how it goes. Now, of course, in the Devon fight, we can go back to using Confusion since it's a legitimately strong move here. We can see that it's going to 2-hit KO against this Geodude. We do level up to level 8 right there, and now the second Geodude, we can stick with Confusion, and it looks like another 2-hit KO right there. It might have required a crit on that first Geodude. I wasn't paying enough attention, but based on the range of the second Geodude, it looks like we crit turn 1, so that's also a factor here. We're going to have to see if we can get through this Roxanne fight or not with this Butterfree. Obviously, the Geodudes have Rock Throw, so I think the only way we're going to get this is if we get a Confusion status on the Geodudes that also causes them to hit themselves in confusion. I'm pretty sure we're getting one hit KO'd if we get hit by the Rock Throw here. And since we're faster, we'll also get some Rock Tombs. There's like a 20% chance for that move to miss. We're just going to have to see if we can get any luck here. So Roxanne attempt number 1 right here. We can just see that Rock Tomb and Rock Throw are massively powerful against this Butterfree because of its 4 times weakness, plus the fact that it's stab for Geodude. So this is nerve-wracking, but I'm going to go for Confusion, and it does pitifully little here. 8 damage to the Geodude, and of course we get 1 hit KO'd. So I think we're going to be able to say pretty clearly that unless you got like God tier confusion luck here, which is only like a 10% chance to get the confusion status and then a 50% chance for them to hit themselves in confusion, that there's just no way that Butterfree gets through this fight. So even with struggling against Calvin, and I know people might want to complain a little bit about that, it's really not good. This time we do get the Geodude to hit itself in confusion 1 turn, giving us a slight chance. In fact, it hits itself again, so we force her to use a potion on the first Geodude, but then it hits Rock Tomb and we simply go down. Like, we would need so many misses or so much confusion luck here to get through with this Pokemon that I think we can just basically say it's out of there, it's done. Butterfree just does not get through on this challenge. And obviously Butterfree doesn't even get a level up move till level 13. That would be Poison Powder. We saw previously that medium slow Pokemon only hit level 13 after they defeated Roxanne. So the medium fast level up group is actually slower in the early game. Won't get anywhere near that. Maybe would get to level 11 off of this fight. And that basically means there's nothing to do here. Now there are TM moves that I think would eventually get this Pokemon through if somebody did want to save it as a channel member. You could get access to Giga Drain as a TM move. Psychic and Solar Beam exist, though I don't think you'd go Solar Beam. The charging turn would just get you wrecked. But at the end of the day, I think with TM moves, this Pokemon would be able to find a way through the Jasmine fight. I just think there would be enough options. But for now, Butterfree's out of there. That means Caterpie and Metapod are also out of there. There's no way those Pokemon get through. And now it's time to move on to Beedrill and see if it stands any chance here. But I think the odds are basically 0. Let's find out. So here as we pick up our Beedrill this time, it's going to come in knowing only Fury Attack, which is a normal type move that only hits between 2 and 5 times, but it isn't very powerful. So while it's going to be more than enough to get us through the Zigzagoon quite easy, and it should help us with the Poochyenas, I'm pretty sure that it just fails on Roxanne, but we don't have a 4 times weakness there. So who knows, maybe we can find some way to get this to go, but we don't get focus energy via level up until level 15. So I don't think there's a lot of hope here for this Pokemon. Still, we can get to May where we can use the Fury Attack. When we get a 3-hitter, it's doing about a quarter. The rest of the time, it's not doing quite as much. Still, it takes 4 turns to knock her out, and we get through on the first attempt. So let's just go take on youngster Calvin, gain a little bit of XP at least, and just see how we do as we go through this section. I'd be surprised if we can beat Devin at this point in the game. This is a Pokemon that might actually benefit from going struggle just because of the fact that it would be typeless against those rock type Pokemon, and that might actually give it an advantage. So I probably shouldn't have healed right there. I probably should have just kept with 4 less PP and healed with potions. But let's just see how we do against these required trainers. So here against youngster Calvin, it's not too bad. We get through nice and easy with just 2 of our Fury attacks. So we could technically be down 6 Fury attacks at this point. I'm just keeping that in my mind because of the fact that I might reset my PP when we get to Devin to see if we can just use up the rest of our PP, maybe have an Oranberry on and struggle his Geodudes down. That may be the only option available to us. So here on the Team Aqua Grunt, I'm going to go right back to Fury Attack. We see it doing very little damage. A 3-hitter only did 6 damage here. So this would be a good fight to use up a bunch of PP in. And with the accuracy drops, we might even lose more PP in Fury Attack, which would be kind of ideal. We'd be down to 9 PP remaining at this point, 8 here. Poochyena is holding on with 1 HP as we're using up more and more of our PP here. So we would have had 5 PP remaining here as we get to level 7 if we had not healed in the Pokemon Center after the May fight. So I'm going to go ahead and just take advantage of that by actually reducing the PP that I have on this Beedrill. So I'm going to give an Oranberry to my Beedrill, and let's just see if we can find some way to get through Hiker Devon here. Of course, he leads off with a level 8 Geodude. We go for Fury Attack, doing basically nothing, but we get a 5-hitter that first turn. That was really lucky. In fact, we're getting really good damage rolls here with this first Geodude using the remaining Fury Attacks that we have. But after we use all 5 up, it will be time to go into Struggle here. He has Defense Curled a couple times, but we see Struggle does take down that Geodude. We get through and get to level 8. That will bring out the second Geodude. We can go Struggle right here. We see that we did 5 damage there. We're not taking much in terms of recoil though, and we do have the Oranberry, so we have a chance here, I think, to get through this. We managed to heal up right here. We've got 20 HP remaining as we've gotten it down to 7 HP. And if we manage just one more hit, I think we get the victory here. Sure enough, we do. We managed to beat Devon at least with our Beedrill, and you can legitimately get to Struggle there. You don't actually need to fight wild Pokemon to use up PP. That's a big difference between Beedrill and Butterfree, is when you don't have to actually fight wild Pokemon to get to the point of using Struggle. I consider that to be far more legitimate than the case where you have to fight wild Pokemon and use up PP there, which is why Beedrill, if it did get through here, would not go into the Pass with Struggle category. It would remain in the normal pass category because we legitimately used up our PP in the required battles to beat the game. But now we've made it to Roxanne, and it's time to see if this Struggle strat's gonna do anything for us here. Who knows? Maybe we get a crit or something. Maybe a miss comes in. That's the only way I see even getting through the first Geodude, but let's just see. So Roxanne attempt number 1 right here. We go for Struggle and we did 4 damage. Then we get completely destroyed by a Rock Tomb. So that pretty much, I think, tells us all we need to know. I mean, Beedrill has really low defense. Basically, its defense is on par with like a first stage Pokemon. We actually get a Rock Tomb miss here, which is nice, but it's still not going to be great. We end up just getting knocked out the next turn. We would need so many misses, and even then, I'm not sure we would have enough HP to struggle down all these Pokemon with all of our healing. And it's on that basis that I think we have to eliminate this Beedrill. And of course, if Beedrill's out of there, that means that its unevolved forms, Kakuna and Weedle, are also out of there. And since we're just beating up on bug types so much here, I think we may as well just get some of the Gen 2 and Gen 3 bugs out of the way. Let's look at Ariados and Ledian, because I'm pretty sure they get wrecked. And we can look at Dustox, and we can look at Beautifly, which I also think are going to get wrecked. So let's just test it out and see. So Ledian was not initially part of my plans for this episode, but I figure we should just get the pain out while we can. So let's just do this. I'm basically doing this in the hopes that maybe we'll have a better setup in the next episode and be able to get more Pokemon through. But if we're just eliminating Pokemon left and right, seems like a good time to just get a bunch of them out of the way. And after all, it feels kind of weird to do Butterfree and do Beedrill, but not do the Gen 2 and Gen 3 counterparts to them. So I think this is legitimate. So here with Ledian, we come in knowing Tackle and Supersonic. So it's a really different setup from the Butterfree. We have Tackle to get through the Poochyenas, and Supersonic directly confuses the opponent, so it could give us better odds there. So fortunately, we aren't going to have to worry about running around trying to use up PP in this one. So maybe just on that basis, this one turns out to be better. We'll just have to see how it works out. So here against May, we can try Supersonic on the Torchic to confuse it. It still manages to growl at me, but maybe it hits itself in confusion. It does. And that means that even without a great attack stat, Ledian's doing pretty well here. I think it's going to win this fight pretty handily. Though we actually end up down at 1 HP as we finally get through. I probably should have kept that one confused if I was going to get a victory there. Still, we get the victory. We can move on in the game. It's time to go take on youngster Calvin and his Poochyena. I don't think that's going to be terribly hard. What I think is going to be far more interesting is the fight against Devin, where again, we're not going to have any great moves, so we may be eliminated in this one. Now, it's worth noting that Ledian did manage to get through Falkner in Gen 2 on the basis that it could just spam confusion strats and eventually get the victory. Here, I'm not sure if that's going to work against these rock types though, so I am going to give an Oranberry as I go into the Devin fight just to see if this can be possible, but I'm not feeling super confident even against this trainer that's only one level higher than us. Let's see how this goes. Of course, he leads off with the Geodude that does not know any rock type moves. We confuse it with Supersonic. It hits itself in confusion, so that's nice. And we're doing like 1 damage with our tackles. So I think the only way we get through here is by keeping this one confused and hoping that it just repeatedly hits itself. Basically, Big Brother strats here to try to get through this one. And without a crazy amount of luck, I just don't think it's going to work. Defense Curl also has the benefit that when it is confused, it's going to do less damage to itself when it hits itself in confusion. Still, he is using enough bad moves that we are slowly getting through this one, just because he does have 3 moves available to him and only one of them damages us. Still, we end up using the Oranberry here against the first Geodude, and it seems that at some point he does get to just using Tackle over and over again because his defense is completely buffed and there's no point in using Mud Sport anymore. So unfortunately, it looks like we can't even beat Hiker Devin here. If we can't beat Devin, there's no way we have a chance against Roxanne. I feel pretty confident in just eliminating the Ledian right here, given that there are 2 Geodudes in front of us and we did not even get through the first of the 2. Sure, you could get this with infinite resets and infinite time. You just would need perfect confusion luck the entire time, but I'm not going to sit here and do that. That's not the point of this challenge. So Ledian and by extension Ledyba are eliminated. So that means it's Ariados time, which I also don't think is going to do great here, but let's just find out and see. So here as we come up against the first Zigzagoon, we can see that we have more moves: Poison Sting, String Shot, Scary Face, and Constrict. 3 of our moves are focused on lowering the opponent's speed, which will definitely not help us when we get to Roxanne. And one of our moves is going to be 4 times resisted by a Geodude and might not even affect them. So this really looks like a high likelihood that we're going to get through here. Poison could be a strategy though. Roxanne does not have any way to heal poison, nor does Hiker Devin, and that could make some difference here. I'm going to have to test this out and see. So we'll just go ahead and try our hand at May first with her Torchic. I'm just going to go for the Poison Sting. We get the Poison turn 1. It goes for Growl against me, but that may not matter with the Poison status on. I think this Pokemon's going to go down nice and easy. This might actually be the easiest May fight we've had so far, just because we had a poison-inducing move there. Still, that doesn't make me super confident going forward, but we'll just have to see. I mean, there's no way to know without testing these things properly. I just don't see any way that we're actually going to get through with the 4 times resistance. I don't know if in this generation it's now made where even with a 4 times resistance you're guaranteed to do 1 damage. In Gen 1 you could certainly get cases where Poison Sting against Brock wouldn't even damage his Pokemon. It would repeatedly say the move had missed because of his 4 times resistance, causing it to round down the number below 1, and the game always rounded damage down from there. Any fraction was rounded down. So you couldn't actually damage Brock with like a level 5 Weedle, for example. Here we might actually be able to do 1 damage, and if we can, that will make a massive difference in this one. As in, like, maybe being able to just like see a little bit of chip damage on a Pokemon 1 time. Still, we won't know without testing, so let's get into it and just find out. So here, let's just test Ariados against Hiker Devin and see how this actually works out with Poison Sting strats. Here, Poison Sting does 1 damage, so it is at least damaging the opponent, and we get the poison. So if he just goes Defense Curl enough times, he'll actually get knocked out by the poison damage, and that could actually make a huge difference here. Of course, I've got the Oranberry on for a little bit of healing if I need it, but here we're going to get through the first Geodude thanks to the poison and get to level 8. That brings out the second Geodude. We'll go for the Poison Sting right here. Of course, we're hoping to poison this one as well. Poison Sting has pretty good odds to poison the opponent. I think it's like a 1 in 5 chance. And since we're only taking like 4 to 5 damage here, we will almost certainly get poison on the Geodude. Sure enough, we do. And now if we can just win the damage race here, we're actually going to get through this fight with an Ariados and outperform Beedrill and Ledian. Sure enough, we get the victory. We get to level 9. Ariados gets to move on to Roxanne. I'm not sure how pretty it's going to be in the Roxanne fight, but it has at least gotten here. So let's just see if poison strats can at least allow us to put some damage on one of these Geodudes. I think if we had the poison plus something like an accuracy dropping move, we would actually have some sort of chance here, but I don't think this is really going to work out. Still, we're going to have to test it and see. So Roxanne attempt number 1. Let's go for the Poison Sting. We are faster than the Geodude. It misses Rock Tomb, but then it hits Rock Tomb and takes us down to 9 HP remaining. So we're clearly a 2-hit KO here. And then it just Rock Throws after that to knock me out. There was no way we were getting through there. Even with Poison on, it wasn't going to do that much damage. We would eventually get whittled down. So I think we can once again say that Ariados is not getting through the Roxanne fight at least. I think we have to eliminate this Pokemon, though it did have a nice showing getting further than a couple of the other bug types by getting to this point. The ability Swarm, of course, won't help us when we don't have any bug type moves to use other than String Shot, of course, which is not going to help us here. So yeah, pretty clear that Roxanne is not possible with this Pokemon. I have seen people talking about the fact that Roxanne only likes to use Rock Tomb in the case that you're faster than her. So there could be situations where like having a speed lowering nature would help this Pokemon quite a bit. Maybe something that lowers speed and boosts defense, for example, but I still don't think it would be enough, even with the 10% drop to speed and 10% boost to defense, to get this Pokemon through this fight. So tell me in the comments if you think I'm wrong, but I don't think that natures would really have any impact on any of these runs so far. I think the Pokemon that have gotten through would already have gotten through, and the Pokemon that wouldn't get through, even with a more beneficial nature, would still be failing. But I could be wrong. It's something to test in the future. For now, though, Ariados is out of here. Let's get Spinarak out of here too, and let's look at some Gen 3 bugs. So now it's Beautifly time. We're gonna see if this Pokemon can put it in any work or not, but I'm not super confident. I don't know what the starting moveset is for the Pokemon though. I haven't looked at any starting movesets that's intentional. I want to be surprised with what I get here. So yeah, this is gonna be kind of nuts. You might be saying, if I haven't looked at starting movesets, how did I get the movesets into the overlay? Well, I just used Poke API in order to get them, which is why some of the damage values, etc., were off last time. And in order to fix the overlay for this episode, which it's not completely fixed, there are still things with like the scoring that are bugged out I haven't gotten to, but to fix the movesets and their stats for this one, I basically just went through the Celebi attack decks and just updated the individual moves without looking at what moves each Pokemon actually learns. Because again, I want to be kind of surprised what I get here, since most of these Pokemon I'm running for the first time in Gen 3. So it's kind of interesting to see what they actually come out with. Beautifly here is going to come into the Zigzagoon fight with a moveset of Absorb, and that could actually be massive. If we're able to use Absorb here, this might be our first bug Pokemon that actually gets through, since in spite of the fact that it is bug flying, Absorb might just one-shot against the Geodudes, and then we might just need some like good accuracy luck against that nose pass. This could be very interesting. Let's get into this and see though how we do against May, since she will have a resistance, but we will be recovering HP. It's gonna be a little bit tough, but let's just find out. So May attempt number 1 right here. We're going Absorb with Beautifly. It did 1 damage. Torchic goes for Growl against us, which of course has no impact on this fight, and then does 3 damage with a Scratch. We might need a lot of luck to get through this, including like some critical hits or something. It's possible that a crit would heal us for more damage, but right now we are getting chipped down by this Pokemon, and the only way to get through this would be to go Struggle, I think, since our move just isn't doing enough here. Still, we can test that out and see, because I'm pretty sure we have to win this fight. Sure enough, blacking out there just takes us back to our house, and then we have to go back up here and find May again. So it seems like we have no choice but to win this fight. They just expect you to level up until you can get the job done. So here, I think the only strategy is to go for the struggle strat, since Torchic can never miss with its scratch, and it's just going to deal too much damage against us when Absorb is resisted as it is. It's doing 3 damage per hit, and we're doing 1 damage per hit. So eventually it's just going to have us in a range to knock us out, even in the best case scenario. Still, there are plenty of Pokemon you could use up Absorb PP against and then get to having 0 PP left. So I'm just going to set it so that we have no PP in Absorb. We're going to stay at level 5, so no experience gained. I mean, we could be going up against like Wurmples and things and just using up the PP without any real threat of knocking those Pokemon out. So let's just see how we do now against May, since we have Struggle. This will be a pass with Struggle Pokemon at this point, even if it gets through though. So now coming into this fight with Struggle, we do significantly more damage. 6 damage on the first hit to the Torchic, and we're not taking that much Struggle recoil. Fortunately, it's not till later gens that Struggle does a lot of recoil to you, so we do manage to get through that fight now. We can go heal, we can actually use Absorb after this, and we might have a chance of actually getting through. But officially, minimum battles in terms of never fighting against wild Pokemon or never using PP against wild Pokemon just ends there on May. Still, it's going to be interesting to see if we can find a way through this section after that. That's going to actually be kind of nuts. I don't expect that either of the Poochyenas are going to be a wall to us, so I think we get straight to the gym in this one. So sure enough, Beautifly is making it to the gym to try its hand at Roxanne. It's not necessarily the best though. It's not getting a same type attack bonus with Absorb, so it is just a 20 base power move. These might be 2-hitters without crits. We're gonna have to test this out and see. We're definitely giving an Oran Berry in this one, though it might not matter with our 4x weakness to rock. We'll just have to see if that works at all as well. But I'm gonna test this out and at least see if we can have a first Pokemon in this episode who gets through a Geodude or two. Let's find out. So Roxanne attempt number 1, we go Absorb on the first Geodude and we do about half. So anything less than a crit or a Rock Tomb miss like that is going to be a fail, but we do manage to get through that one this time. That's going to gain us a level to level 9 right here. We can go Absorb on the second Geodude. It hits Rock Throw though, and of course that one hit KOs me. So we would need the luck to get misses here. We could also crit and one hit KO. So either way, it's not great, but we might actually be able to at least get to Nose Pass in this one. Still, if we even get Rock Tombed, it's just a one-hitter here, so we really do need a lot of luck. This time we get a Rock Tomb miss from the second Geodude, so we actually get to go to the final Nose Pass at level 10. I'm still thinking we're probably getting one hit KO'd here, but let's use Absorb to see. It goes Rock Tomb against me, and sure enough, I get one shot. And we can see that here, Absorb as a non-same type move only did 5 damage, so that would be an 8-hit KO on the Nose Pass. The odds of getting the misses that we would need, considering that she's got the Oran Berry, she's got to use potions, etc., is basically impossible for this Beautifly, though it got further than any of the other bug types up to this point. So I guess it can, you know, kind of clap it up for Beautifly. It did a good job getting to Roxanne here, but it's just out of there. And that means, of course, that its unevolved forms are gone as well. So that, of course, only leaves Dustox among these early game bug type Pokemon. It's another bug poison type. I'm not confident in this one either, but let's just see. So here as we get our Dustox to start off, we know Confusion. So we're kind of in the same boat as Butterfree from the looks of this one. A Pokemon that doesn't have a way to deal damage against the Poochyenas. The difference, of course, is that we are not 4 times weak against the rock type moves here, so we might be able to get further in the Roxanne fight. At least we're gonna have to test that out and see. Here against May, of course, we've got another 4-hit KO. With the confusion, we even get a crit, so we get a 3-hitter. And we already know that it's basically going to be impossible to use up all of our remaining PP against that first Poochyena. So we're going to have to reset our PP to go for struggle strats there. Meaning, again, this isn't going to be a legit Pokemon to get through on these settings. At least I don't think so. We'll test it out once just to see, but I think it's going to be pretty clear that we're getting beaten most of the time there because we just can't use up all the PP that we've got. Still, let's just see how youngster Calvin goes here as we try to use Confusion and use up all the PP in it. Of course, he's using Howl to boost his own attack stat. And I believe after it gets to +6 attack, no matter what, it will just go Tackle after that. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's the way that he's likely to go. And that's the reason why it's basically impossible to get through here, because it seems like trainers don't just keep using those setup moves when there's no value to doing so. At the very least, he's going to use Tackle enough to knock us out, so it's pretty clear we're not getting through there. Let's try with Struggle instead. So here with Struggle, we can see this looks like a 4-hit KO on the Poochyena. In fact, we get a 3-hitter here, so we get through just fine on that one. We'll be able to, I think, get through the Team Aqua Grunt as well. It might not be the most consistent, but certainly possible. And then we're just going to have to see if Confusion can put a dent into Roxanne's Pokemon, since we already know that we will be able to get through against Devon. I mean, we've already shown that with the Butterfree. I don't think it's going to be a big difference here, but let's just find out and see if we get any further with this one or not. And sure enough, Hiker Devon was no issue to get through there, so we're ready to go on to the gym. I'm going to slap on that Oranberry. We're just going to have to see if we can get Roxanne to work out or not here. I'm not super confident, but who knows? Maybe it's a matter of critical hits. Maybe it's a matter of confusion. Maybe we can survive a Rock Tomb. Let's find out. So Roxanne attempt number 1 right here. We go for Confusion on the first Geodude and get it confused. We did 7 damage and it hit itself in Confusion. Still, it looks like this is basically a 4-hit KO without the confusion damage. And we would need Geodude to hit itself in Confusion at least twice to get through this first one. It looks like there's basically no way for us to outspeed, though we actually got a Defense Curl turn 1 here. Wait a second, because if she doesn't just go for the rock type moves because it's not a guaranteed KO, we might actually have a shot here. Like, we'll take Defense Curl all day. So we actually do manage to get through the first Geodude here, getting the level 10 as the Nose Pass comes out next. So I'm going to go Confusion here. Confusion did 8 damage. Of course, we get knocked out from there by the Rock Tomb. But wait just a second. This is kind of interesting, especially if she's going Nose Pass second and not always going for rock type moves. I'm pretty sure she always goes for the rock type move if she'll get a KO with it. So it's purely a factor of whether or not she thinks she has the KO range. So a few attempts later, we do manage to get to Nose Pass again here. But like I said, I'm pretty sure it just goes Rock Tomb because it's going to see from that range that it can one-hit KO us. And we are still faster anyway, so it's just going to go for the move. Still, we are at least getting through to the Nose Pass sometimes, which is kind of hilarious. We would need the luck to actually get it confused, but that could be a way to get through this. Now, it's also worth noting that Rock Tomb never lowers our speed because we have the Shield Dust ability here. So even though we're taking Rock Tomb, we're never getting the speed lowering effect of it, which means we'll never be slower than the Nose Pass, which I think will cause it to continuously keep using the Rock Tomb. Like, even if we got there on full HP, I'm pretty sure she goes Rock Tomb just because we're faster than her. So I don't think that this is highly likely that we can actually get through this fight. It is just interesting to see how much the confusion plus the kind of weird interactions with her AI is affecting it, though, and is at least sometimes letting us get through the first Geodude only for Nose Pass to come out next. I wonder what the logic is for her to send out Nose Pass versus going to the second Geodude. Still, after a lot of attempts, we're not getting any further than the Nose Pass here. So I think we do have to eliminate Dustox yet again. It does get credit for actually taking out a Geodude, so we'll give it a small little clap up for that one. But I mean, it's clearly just not going to get through this one. So let's eliminate Dustox and Cascoon here and get back to the action properly. So now stepping back to our results screen, now that we did all of those bug type Pokemon, we have a situation that I have never had in one of these minimum battle series, where we actually have fewer Pokemon in the pass column than the fail column. That's actually never happened in Gen 1 or Gen 2. As I went through the Pokedex, there were always enough Pokemon that could manage to get through the gym leaders that you always were actually net positive. So being 17 Pokemon passing and 25 Pokemon failing is actually a really new experience for me. But for now, though, it's time to get into our early game flying types. We're looking at Pidgeot, Fearow, and Noctowl to see how they do in this section, and I'm not feeling good about it. But let's lead off with Pidgeot, who will get the accuracy strats, so it may have more than the other flying types, but I think the flying types are probably getting stonewalled here. Let's see. So Pidgeot is interesting in that it is a Pokemon that actually beats Brock on minimum battles in Gen 1. It's not super consistent to do so, but because it has Quick Attack and Gust as two damaging moves, and it has access to the Sand Attack at the start of the game, that turns out to be enough to get through. We're going to have to see if that remains the case here, though, because I'm not super confident that even with its Giga Chad hairdo that it's going to manage to get through this one. Still, I think it will do just fine getting to Hiker Devon at least. But let's see what the starting moveset is. So here we are leading off with Tackle, Sand Attack, Gust, and Quick Attack. Quick Attack is basically going to be the best play in every case because it's going to have priority, but this moveset is probably not going to be enough to get through Devon without the accuracy strats, I think. Still, we are in the medium soul level up group, so we're going to get more levels than basically everything else in this section. So it's going to have the best shot to get through just on the basis of being at a higher level, having plenty of damage dealing PP here. I still don't think it's going to be enough, though. Still, let's just try May and see how she goes. I did decide to go up against the Torchic line with these Pokemon on the basis that nothing really matches up well against these flying types, and at least fighting will be neutrally effective against the normal flying types. That was my logic, but tell me if you think that's a mistake in the comments down below. For now, though, I'm just going to go Gust against the Torchic, and it looks like an easy 3-hit KO to simply knock that one out, so we're never losing that fight against May with Pidgeot. And with that, I don't expect any problems until Devon, so I'm going to jump straight ahead to the Hiker fight and see if we can manage that one, because I think we need that XP if we're even going to have a shadow of a chance when we get to Roxanne herself. Now, it's also worth noting that because we have so many moves at the beginning of the game, we're not going to learn any level up moves till level 20 with this one. I think the moveset would be good enough to get through Brawly, though, because Gust would be super effective there. We might be able to just go straight to Brawly after Roxanne if we could somehow get through her and get a victory that way. Granted, of course, eventually we would have to take on Watson, and we're probably just dead at that point with Pidgeot no matter what, but that's all conjecture for the future. For now, let's just try to get through this section. So here we are against Devon. Let's just see how it goes with Pidgeot. I'm going to lead off with a couple of sand attacks to lower accuracy, and then I'm just going to start an all-out attacking with Quick Attack first. We can see that it does 2 damage here, but if he just misses enough times, we should eventually be able to get through. Of course, the defense girls are going to lead to us doing basically no damage, so we might need to go even harder on the accuracy debuffs to actually get through this. I did put on an Oranberry just in case, but while this is an incredibly tedious fight, it does look like it's one that's eventually going to work out for us. And sure enough, we get through the first Geodude, getting to level 9. That will bring us to the second Geodude. We can once again go for the sand attacks to start off here, and then just start attacking again and hope to take this one down before it sets up too many of those defense girls or lands too many tackles against us. And thanks to the Oranberry, we are going to in fact get through this one. We also got a nice crit there that allowed us to negate a lot of that defensive buildup, and we get to level 10. So once again, we are getting through at a relatively high level thanks to being in the medium slow level up group. It's just a question if this is going to be anywhere near enough against Roxanne herself, because her Geodudes actually know rock type moves and are probably going to wreck this one. Still, the accuracy might be enough to set up here and actually get through, so let's just see. So Roxanne attempt number 1, I'm going to lead off with Sand Attack, of course. We're hoping for misses. We get 1 miss right there. Now it hits Rock Tomb and does about half to us. I did not put on the Oran Berry in this one, which was clearly a mistake, but it does look like we might be able to survive an extra hit if we have that Oran Berry on. And then we're just going to need really, really good accuracy luck. So I think there's no choice really but to get the Geodude's accuracy all the way down and then start attacking. We can see that when we do Quick Attack, it's only doing 2 damage. And that's as strong as it gets. I mean, Quick Attack and Gust are effectively the same power here. The overlay seems to be miscalculating the damage of impact of them. So that is what it is. They are effectively the same power for this fight though. It would be really different if the Geodude was only using Tackle here with the number of turns that we could survive, because that would basically be like Brock's Geodude in Pokemon Red and Blue. But here with the Rock type moves, it's pretty clear we just don't deal enough damage. And even if we get all the accuracy debuffs here, we're still just not going to survive enough hits to make it actually work out. So I think Pidgeot is just out of there. That, of course, means that it's Fearow time. It's another Pokemon that I don't think is getting through, though. Kenya might have been a nice Pokemon to have in Gen 2, but here in Gen 3, I think it's going to just get completely wrecked. Of course, we do have higher attacking stats relatively as a flying Pokemon here and good speed, but neither of those things are necessarily helping us that much, because I don't think the higher attack stats are actually going to lead to us dealing a lot more damage here against Roxanne. So I think everything before Devon is going to be super easy, but even Devon might be a wall here. It depends on the moveset. Let's see what we actually get. And we come in with Peck, Growl, Leer, and Fury Attack. Of course, Peck is the strategy for everything before Devon. We might have to go Growl and Leer strats, but that actually does give us something at least to use, since if we can get like a Rock to miss turn 1, we could Growl, maybe lower the power of the move, maybe use some Leers in order to deal more damage. Maybe there's some crazy way that we could get this to work out. I just don't have a lot of confidence. As we come into the fight against May, though, it's going to be an easy 3-hit KO with Peck, so we get through that nice and easy. And I don't think the Poochyenas are really going to do anything to us, so let's get straight to Devon later on. So here we've gotten Fearow to Hiker Devon. I'm going to see how we do against these Geodudes. I'm going to start with a Growl first to reduce damage output. We can Leer to try to get him to have lower defense. Obviously, he's got a decent chance to use Defense Curl, but maybe he goes Tackle, giving us a chance to actually get the defense drop. We can see here Peck only did 2 damage, so I think Fury Attack actually has the higher damage potential if it just gets a multi-hit, like 3 or 4 hitter here. There would be no need to even set up Leers against these Geodudes. Still, that doesn't really make me super confident going to Roxanne, since our best play is going to be to use Fury Attack and try to get a 5-hitter, maybe doing 5 damage. So it's not looking great. We do manage to get to the second Geodude here though, so we can give it a Growl to reduce its damage output and go back into the Fury Attack spam trying to get through this one. I do think that we'll be able to get through Devon. I just question if it's going to be enough to get through Roxanne with her rock type moves. So sure enough, Devon goes down. We get to level 8 as we're ready to go into the gym. But like I said, I just don't think that the Fury Attack's going to do enough here. So I think this is probably game over. But there's only one way to know for sure, which is to get into this fight, see the ranges, and just see if we can manage some sort of luck to at least put a dent in one of these Geodudes. So Roxanne attempt number 1, I'm going to lead off with Growl to reduce the damage from the Rock Tomb. It still does 17 damage to me as I use the Oran Berry. We'll go Growl again. She Rock Tombs again, getting us to low health. And there's just simply nothing to do from there as we simply go down. We're slower after the 2 Rock Tombs, and there's just no way that we're going to get through after that. Now, of course, if she does miss Rock Tomb, like she does twice in a row here, we can go for the Fury Attack now, and we've used a couple of Growls, so we're taking less damage from the rock type moves. We have at least managed to do some damage here, but then we simply get knocked out in the end. So it's pretty clear against this Geodude that unless it wants to miss Rock Tomb like multiple times in a row or start going for Defense Curl at the start of the fight like crazy, we're just not going to be able to get through this fight. When we do start getting a lot of misses, I will try to lower its attack stat as low as possible just to see if maybe we have a chance with that. But still, she's going for Defense Curl and all kinds of other things, so I just don't think we're going to survive here now that we're on low health. We've already used the Oran Berry. We don't have a move that like lowers accuracy here, so we're just getting knocked out. So Fearow, while it does manage to get to Roxanne, is not getting through Roxanne. There's just no way. So this Pokemon and its unevolved form Spearow are just going to be eliminated right here. So, of course, that brings us to Noctowl, the last of these flying types that we're going to have a chance to test out here. And I get the feeling that it's probably not going to be great. It has lower attack and lower defense than the previous two flying types. Its real claim to fame is its higher special defense, but that's just not going to be relevant here. So I really question if this Pokemon's going to have any chance whatsoever. And here we come in with Tackle, Growl, Foresight, and Peck. So it's not like we have a status move to really use against anything. I think that's basically going to be the end of this one. Like, yes, we can probably Growl and Peck to eventually make our way through Devon, but even that is kind of questionable given our lower attacking stats. We might even lose to Devon, but even if we get through, I see no way we get through Roxanne. Still, I'll test it as far as I can get it and just see if we can manage the victory here. May is an easy 3-hit KO with Peck, fortunately, so we get through that. The Poochyenas shouldn't be an issue, so I'm jumping straight ahead to Devon. So here we have at least made it to Hiker Devon with our Noctowl. I'm going to give it an Oran Berry so that it has a way to heal in battle. Let's just see if we have any chance here against this Hiker. So first thing that I'm going to do, of course, is go for Growl here, just lowering his attack as much as I can, because I'm pretty sure that our attacking moves are doing basically nothing anyway. So I think it's more important to get his attack stat down before I go into Peck, and we can hope for some critical hits or something as we go through this to try to get through. Still, we can see that we're taking significantly more damage from the Geodude, it seems, than we're dealing back to it. Even though its attack stat is on -6, it's still doing 2 damage per hit, and after the defense curls, we're only doing 1 damage per hit. So we're probably hoping that it doesn't go for defense curl, but even without a single defense curl, I was only doing 1 damage with Peck. So yeah, this is definitely not looking good with this Noctowl, and it might not even be able to get through Devon here. And if you can't get through Devon, then Roxanne is just an absolute impossibility. I mean, she's actually using super effective moves. Devon here at least is only using Tackle. So once you get his attack stat down, he's only going to be doing 2 damage per hit here. Still, we might just manage to get through the first of the Geodudes this time, so maybe we have a shot against the second one. Though we did already use our Oran Berry, we get a level up to level 8, which is a damage rounding threshold, so maybe we end up doing like 2 damage here. I'm honestly not sure, but I'm gonna give this one a couple of growls as well and then go back into Peck. And nope, it used defense curl, so we're only doing 1 damage per hit once again. So if it decides to start attacking me at some point, we're probably going to lose, since it's going to do 2 or 3 damage per hit here, and sure enough, we go down. I don't think even that fight looks winnable enough with this Noctowl to justify resetting here and trying to get to Roxanne even. I think Noctowl and Hoothoot are just out of there based on that. So coming back now to our summary screen, the bloodbath continues. 17 Pokemon have passed, but 32 Pokemon have failed in this section on minimum battles because Roxanne is such an absolute wall. And now we're coming back with our normal types, Raticate, Furret, and Linoone. And we're just going to have to see if any of these Pokemon have any chance whatsoever. They have no weaknesses here. That's the benefit. And they will get same type attack bonuses in normal type moves. That means that Cut, where learnable, could even be useful here as it would be an upgraded move. But the sheer amount of healing that Roxanne has, I think, is going to make this impossible. Still, there's only one way to check it out and see. We're going to start off with that Raticate and see if maybe it can find a way through this. So now it is Raticate time, and we're gonna see if this one can get through. That Raticate sprite might be worse than either of the first two gens, in my personal opinion. What is that? Still, we're gonna test this Pokemon to the maximum of its abilities, see how far it can get. I think it will get to Devon at least just fine. It might even get through Devon because it does have decent attacking stats. But the real question is Roxanne, where we're just not going to have any good moves. And I'm questioning if this is going to be possible or not. Now, of course, we'll get Raticate into Trico Ball because later on, if we do manage to get through this, Blaziken and Combusken will have super effective moves against this Pokemon later on. And we see our moveset starts off as Quick Attack, Tackle, and Tail Whip. Obviously, Quick Attack is the way to go in these early fights since it basically guarantees that we're going to knock out that Zigzagoon. As a same type move, it is stronger on this Raticate, and we don't have any weaknesses here. So we might at least outperform the Pidgeot, but we'll just have to see how this actually goes. Here against May, of course, I'll just go straight for Quick Attack, and it looks like it's going to be a 3-hit KO, especially after we get growled once, but that's still not too bad to get through that fight. The Poochyenas I don't expect to give us any difficulty either, so it's going to be straight on to Devon in this one. Now, I am getting cut here since it is a technically upgraded move for this Pokemon. I'm going to avoid learning it for now, but it is a possibility here. We'll see if it makes any difference in the damage output as we get into these fights. Now, it's worth noting that a lot of faster Pokemon like this really do miss Gen 1 when critical hits were based on base speed, since this Pokemon would have a significantly higher than 6.25% critical hit chance in the original generation. Here, we're going to have to try to take on Devon as we are, though, and just see how this goes. We can see that at the beginning, it looks like we're doing about 2 damage per hit. He goes for a defense curl. I want to ideally keep his defense down as much as possible, but we see we're taking a lot of damage from the physical hits from this Geodude. So I think without an Oranberry, this one's probably impossible. I did not slap on the Oranberry for this one, which was obviously a mistake, but we're not getting through even the first Geodude here without it. That at least makes me think it's worth trying the move cut since it is stronger here. Let's see if it affects the ranges at all against the Geodude. I'm not even going to try for a defense drop this time. I'm just going to go straight for cut here. So cut still is just doing 2 damage per hit. Of course, it's slightly stronger after he goes for the defense curl, and maybe, just maybe, we can find a way to get through this first Geodude this time, as he's just gone for a lot more defense curls in this one. And maybe just a critical hit or something is all we really need. Still, we end up having to use the Oranberry right there. And while we're slowly whittling this one down, it's gotten us fairly low, down about half health as we finally get through. We do manage to level up to level 8 as the second Geodude comes out, though. So we actually did 4 damage with the first cut here, thanks to the damage rounding boost that we get from being at level 8. So it might actually be possible to get through Devon if he goes for something other than tackle enough times. But even then, it's looking pretty sus. Like 2 more hits, he's going to knock us out, and we're not doing enough damage to get through. So I think it's pretty clear right there that Raticate is simply not going to progress in this challenge. And if Raticate's out, that means Rattata's out. Let's go to Gen 2 instead and look at Furret and see if it stands any shot here, because it should have defense curl strats if I recall correctly, at least if it's like Gen 2, and that could give us a chance, boosting our own defense so that we can actually win the damage race with some of these rock types. And here with Furret, of course, we're coming in with Scratch, Quick Attack, and Defense Curl, just like I thought. And Defense Curl should at least boost our chances of getting through something here, because we might be able to just boost our own defense high enough that we can actually survive against a major threat. We're going to have to see if that works out, though. Still, it's likely the best chance that we're going to have with these normal types, at least based on the movesets that I've seen so far. So here against May, I don't think there's even a need to go for Defense Curl, though. We can go straight into Quick Attack and get a 3-hit KO on that Pokemon. The Poochyenas, again, should do nothing against us, so let's just get straight through them and make our way right to Devon at the end of this. If we can manage to get through Devon, then we might just have a chance to take on Roxanne, and who knows, maybe after she gets our speed low enough, she just won't actually use the Rock Tomb and give us a chance to get through. I'm going to test it out and see. We do at least have the advantage of having Quick Attack, so even if our speed stat is lower, I'm pretty sure we still can get priority. I think Roxanne's just looking at your actual speed, not your effective speed, so we may be able to get an advantage by just getting our speed lowered there enough that we no longer get Rock Tombed, and we can just go repeatedly for the Quick Attacks instead of that. So sure enough, we make it to Devon. Let's see how he actually goes with this Furret, and I didn't heal coming in. Sorry, let me go heal really quickly and we'll try this one properly. So Furret, a legit attempt number 1 here against Devon. I'm going to go for Defense Curl first to boost my own defenses. Now, obviously, if we set it up a bunch of times here, we should reach a point where they're basically doing no damage to us. And now we can go into the Quick Attacks, hoping that we get our own critical hits here to hopefully get to the point where we can win this damage race. That's really more of a damage marathon in this case. It's probably one of the slowest fights that you could ever take, but since it's all that we've got available, it's what we're going to go for here. Now, it does look like an Oran Berry is going to be necessary in this one, since we are still taking significant damage, but this is really going to come down to luck, I think, of what move choices this Geodude makes early in the fight and just how high we can get our defense stat. I think at minimum, though, it's going to be doing 2 damage against us because we don't have a resistance to tackle, whereas our Quick Attack can get down to doing 1 damage per hit against the Geodude because of the fact that it's resistant. So this fight seems to come down to like who gets more critical hits and how many times this Geodude just spams Defense Curl needlessly, because once it has us down to doing like 1 damage per hit, there's really no reason for it to keep using Defense Curl, but it can, giving us a little bit of an advantage that will eventually allow us to get through the first Geodude at least. So we are on very low health as we go to the second Geodude, so we're just going to have to see how this goes. And we're still only dealing 2 damage per hit before it starts going for Defense Curl. And I think without critical hits, we simply won't deal enough damage before it can knock us out. We might have needed 1 more Defense Curl ourselves to keep it from doing a 3 damage range some of the time. So I am going to try to set up an extra couple of Defense Curls this time, just to guarantee that it's only dealing 2 damage per hit. But even then, this fight might not actually be possible. And sure enough, it seems that without a bunch of critical hits, we would not be able to get through even this fight against Hiker Devon. So in that case, I think that we have to eliminate Furret here, in spite of the fact that if it did get any sort of like TM moves, it would be significantly stronger here. It just doesn't get any usable moves in this section. So that eliminates both Furret and Sentret and brings us to our last fully evolved normal type, which is Linoone. I'm going to have to fix the positioning of that sprite on the top left because it seems to be floating up in space there. Sorry, we may deal with that if this Pokemon actually progresses, but for now, we are going to have to simply try to make our way through this one with no real guarantees that it has any shot whatsoever. Still, we're just gonna have to see if it works out or not, and what moveset we start with this Pokemon. And here, as we bring Zigzagoon's daddy into the first battle, we see that we start the game with Headbutt to go together with Growl, Tail Whip, and Leer. Headbutt is, of course, double the power of Tackle and has the chance to cause a flinch. So we get a 1-hit KO on the Zigzagoon, and I think this move's going to carry us all the way to Devon easily. Now the question is, can we get through Devon, perhaps by lowering his attack stat and getting some flinches with the Headbutt? This could be incredibly interesting because we have not tried flinch strats yet against Roxanne. So of course, we'll come into the Rival 1 fight here against May and just headbutt on the Torchic. It's an easy 2-hit KO, and we get through with no damage taken. A nice, easy victory there as we get ready to go take on youngster Calvin. And if we're that strong this early on, I think we're going to be perfectly fine until Devon. So let's get straight to that hiker fight and see if we can win there, get some XP, and then go try our hand at Roxanne and just see how she likes getting headbutt repeatedly. So here for the Devon fight, I am going to give an Oranberry, and let's just get into this and see how it goes with Linoone. I think the best play is to go Growl once at least just to lower his attack. He goes Mud Sport turn 1, that's fine. I'm going to Tail Whip to lower his defense until I get a turn where he goes Tackle against me so that I have the lowered defense stat to work with. Headbutt here does 6 damage. So with that, we are in fact going to be able to get through this Geodude, even if it starts using some defense girls. That's not going to matter. That brings out the second Geodude. Once again, I'll give it a Growl just to lower its attack power and give it a Tail Whip to lower its defense. We use the Oranberry right here, but now we can go into the headbutts knowing that we're doing 6 to 7 damage per hit here. And if it doesn't go for a ton of defense girls here, we get through nice and easy with the headbutts. And that gives me a little bit of faith going into the Roxanne gym that maybe, just maybe with headbutt strats plus the tail whips, we can manage to get through this. Let's get into it and find out. Of course, her Pokemon are going to resist our headbutts, and they are at higher levels than us. So that's going to make some impact on this fight, but still, we might be banking on something like a Rock Tomb Miss to get an extra tail whip and then headbutt from there. Let's see how this goes. So Roxanne attempt number 1, I'm going to Tail Whip turn 1 because I just want to see how much damage I'll do if I actually get to use the headbutt after a Tail Whip. We get Rock Tombed once, but we only took 14 damage there, so we're going to be able to survive another one. We headbutt, and the headbutt did 5 damage here. We can get flinches on the Geodude now, and after healing with the Oranberry, we will be able to survive another Rock Tomb even. We're in a speed tie now with the Geodude. She ends up using the potion here. We get Rock Tombed again and then Rock Throw, so we do go down on that attempt, but this could possibly work. I'm going to give some growls here this time instead to lower the damage output of the Geodude. I'm really hoping to also reduce its defense. We may need a miss from Rock Tomb or something like that here. Of course, there is an argument for going straight into the headbutts while we're faster and just trying to get flinches, but headbutt with no defense drops is only doing 3 damage here. So we really do need at least a defense drop before we go for that. So it really does feel like we kind of want a Rock Tomb Miss turn 1 or something like that. Somehow at least we want to outspeed after we get the defense of the Geodude down a little bit. From there, we're really hoping for flinches here to have a chance of actually getting through this. We do get a lot of runs where we can force this Geodude to use its potion, and so we do actually manage to get through the first Geodude once, getting to level 9. That brings out the second Geodude, where I think we really have no choice but to go for headbutt there because we were already on low health and we were about to get knocked out. Headbutt also only has 15 PP, so it's not a great situation here against Roxanne. Still, we got through one Geodude, so that's kind of good progress for a normal type Pokemon. Still, I think we can just say based on that Linoone is not going to get through that fight. I cannot find a combination of growls and tail whips that results in me still outspeeding there without also getting a miss from Rock Tomb. And then even then, you just need so many turns to knock out the Geodudes with the headbutt. It just doesn't quite work out. So with that, I'm going to eliminate Linoone and Zigzagoon from this one. I just don't think they can legitimately get through this. Now, somebody did ask me about pickup and whether or not I would allow picked up items to be used. Of course, if we got the luck to get something that would help us here, sure. sure, but I think at some point that would be too luck-based to just sit here with. If we're not even close to getting through a fight, I don't think that it's worth it to sit here and mess around with that. It's also worth noting that because this is Pokemon Emerald, not Pokemon Ruby or Sapphire, there is no way for this Linoone to pick up a rare candy at this level. If this were Pokemon Ruby or Sapphire, there would be like a 1% chance when it picks up that it would get access to a King's Rock, as well as having a chance to get a rare candy, get a protein, etc. But in Pokemon Emerald, at least according to Bulbapedia, there are no stat boosting items available to a Pokemon that is below level 10. The King's Rock would not even become possible to pick up with the pickup ability until you're at least level 11, which we can see on minimum battles, we're not getting there at this point. So it's not like there would be any usefulness of the pickup ability before Roxanne, which again basically means that this Pokemon has to be eliminated right here. And with that, we've reached our final Pokemon for today, effectively. Mightyena. I think if this Pokemon doesn't get through, obviously Poochyena doesn't get through, it's our last chance to actually get a victory against Roxanne in this episode. Otherwise, we will actually, for the first time ever, be just completely shut down for an entire episode by a gym leader, which is nuts to me. And it just goes to show how tough Roxanne in this section is compared to basically every first gym leader up to this point. Like even in Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green, I'm pretty sure Brock is significantly worse than this based on just very limited testing at this point. But I would actually expect that against Brock, we might have been able to get through with something today. Not the case for Roxanne. She is just way too into her rock type moves, plus healing, that kind of makes her OP for this section of the game, honestly. So let's pick up our Mightyena and just see if he can turn this situation around. First things first, we come into this with the ability Intimidate. So we will be lowering the opponent's attack stat. We have Howl, we have Bite as a same type move, we have Sand Attack. We have 3 legit strategies here to try to get through. I'm going to go for Stab Bite here against the Zigzagoon. It's going to be a 2-hit KO. That's perfectly fine. But if we can set up Howl, we can obviously go for the tackles, dealing more damage. But I think the best play when we get to Roxanne will be the Sand Attack and Bite strategies. Accuracy plus trying to flinch and using the fact that Bite is neutrally effective there. That could make a massive difference with the flinches. We're just going to have to see. For now, I'm going to come and fight against May, where we should have more than enough here with just simple Bite strategies. And seeing how Intimidate affects this will be very interesting, since it will be reducing the amount of damage we take from those physical moves that Roxanne's using. Intimidate users could actually get a pretty big advantage here. We'll just have to see, but I'm going to make my way straight to the gym because with Bite, I don't think we're going to have an issue against Devon. So I think it's going to be time to just see how we do against Roxanne herself with this one. And maybe we have a small shot at actually getting something through this time. If we do get through here, then the real question will be at what level does Poochyena learn the move Bite? I'm assuming that it's at a higher level, and given that this is a medium fast level up Pokemon, we know we're only going into the fight against Roxanne at level 8, if we can get through Devon, that is. And so that makes me think that it might still be impossible for Poochyena, since I think it's going to be stuck with just Howl, Tackle, and Sand Attack strats there. But Mightyena might be the perfect Pokemon to actually get us a chance in this one. So let's just test it out and see as we get there. It's worth noting that this is still a generation before the physical special split. Dark type moves are all special here. That does mean we're using our lower special attack with Bite, but Bite has good base power, is stab, and has the neutral effectiveness that I think is going to make it actually pretty decent here, as long as we can just get the flinch luck to line up. And sure enough, Bite got us through Devon really easily. So I have a little bit of faith that we're actually getting through in this one. Let's see if Roxanne decides to crush my faith right here. But I'm going to give that Oranberry and let's just see how this goes. So Roxanne attempt number 1, let's come in and lead off with a couple sand attacks just to lower the accuracy of the rock tombs. We took 9 damage from the first hit. Now that Geodude goes Defense Curl, but that really doesn't matter because we're going to be using a special move anyway. So here we can go Bite. We see it did 12 damage. So this is a 3-hit KO at this point. She has to Potion there. We can just keep biting. We flinch the Geodude, so we get the first one down nice and easy. That brings out the second Geodude. Let's just set up more sand attacks here. It misses a Rock Tomb. Now it hits, lowering our speed. We're actually slower than the Geodude now, but still, we know we have a 3-hit KO. We even get a critical hit there, so we get to the Nose Pass. And now, yet again, I'm going for the sand attacks. Unfortunately, because we were slower, it just Rock Tombed me down. But we might be able to get through with maybe fewer sand attacks and more focus on just going for the bite strats here to get the flinches. I will still give a couple of sand attacks to each of these Geodudes, just trying to reduce their accuracy, but we really want the flinches. That's what we're really here for in this one, especially if they start going Defense Curl. That could give us a massive advantage here. Here we managed to get to Nose Pass again, still with 27 HP. It goes Block this time. That's going to allow me to start setting up with the sand attacks, and she's going Harden. She misses a tackle, and what I've heard is that she will not go for Rock Tomb here when I'm slower than her unless it's going to knock me out. So this is a spot to set up all the sand attacks and now go back into the bites. Our first bite did 8 damage there, so this will be a 5-hit KO without crits. We force her to use her Orange Berry. Now she potions. And if we can just avoid getting tackled too many times, we could actually get through this one. This deserves quite a few resets to try to get it to go. This time we even get to the Nose Pass on full health, just going all in on the bites at the beginning of this. Now she's going to go Rock Tomb because we're currently faster than her. So I'm going to just start setting up the sand attacks here. One Rock Tomb is enough to guarantee that we're actually slower, but we still have the Orange Berry on. So if we set up all the accuracy debuffs here, I think we have a really good chance of actually getting through. Block obviously means nothing. Harden means nothing to our strategy. And now we can just start biting here. Again, needing a 5-hit KO. We get her to use the Orange Berry again as we use our Orange Berry. She misses a tackle again, and just like that, we actually get through with a Pokemon. Are you kidding me? Roxanne goes down to Mightyena, getting to level 11. Obviously, this Pokemon's not going to be great against Brawly next. We're going to have to gain as many levels as possible before we take him on. But Mightyena does get through Roxanne and is our first Pokemon, and perhaps our only Pokemon in this episode, that actually completes this gym successfully. Are you kidding me? That deserves a save of the game. And now we've got to check in on Poochyena that I don't think can repeat this, but let's just see if maybe I'm wrong. So it's time to roleplay as a Team Aqua Grunt here, or Youngster Calvin here, depending on whether you like shorts or you like to wear long pants. But we're going to have to see if this Poochyena has any shot. Of course, we know what its starting moveset is going to be, just based on the fact that we've seen so many Poochyenas. We know we're going to be dealing with Tackle and Howl. The question is, what level do we learn Bite at? We'll check that out after we take down the Zigzagoon. I'm just going to give a quick Howl here and now go into the tackles to knock this Pokemon out. And Bite is not learned until level 13, which is higher than the level that we would beat Roxanne at. I think that means that this one's impossible, but we'll get as far as we can in this. Let's see how we do against Hiker Devon here with this Poochyena. It's also worth noting that our ability is Runaway, which just makes escaping easier, so it really doesn't help us like the Intimidate does. Intimidate is, I think, way OP for this part of the game due to the fact that it does allow us to lower the attack stat of Roxanne's Pokemon, which can help a lot with getting the ranges we need. So here we're just going to have to see how Poochyena does. I'm going to use a couple Howls here against the Torchic before I start tackling, since with a boosted attack stat, we get through this fight nice and easy. May didn't stand a chance. Clearly, she can't beat a Team Aqua Grunt, but that's perfectly fine. We'll go take on the Aqua Grunt for her and make our way to Rustboro City. Of course, before that, though, we have to have the mirror match with youngster Calvin, and I didn't heal coming in, so we lose to youngster Calvin. Terrible. The Poochyena on Poochyena violence right here. I think our strategy is to go for the howl first. We are, of course, rocking better DVs than this Poochyena that's in front of us, so it goes for 2 howls. In fact, it just keeps howling as we knock it out and take no damage this time and get to level 6. So clearly we are the superior version of youngster Calvin. Now we have to go take on a Poochyena that's 3 levels higher than us, though, in the Petalburg Woods. So we're probably not going to be doing great here, but let's just see how this actually works out. Of course, I will lead off by howling before he howls, and we're just howling at each other. We're still faster than this grunt, even though we're 3 levels lower thanks to the max IVs here. And now when we start tackling, we're at least doing decent damage. We just need to actually hit. We don't know Sand Attack yet, and it does. So we're going to need 1 more hit here in order to get the victory. Still, we managed to get through with no damage there, getting to level 7. And now it's on to Devin, who might be impossible, but I'm going to try to howl at him a bunch and then go into my tackles just to see if we can find a way through this. Obviously, the Oran berries are going to be important in this fight, I think. So here against Hiker Devin, I'm going to go for Howl first. We can see he did 5 damage with a tackle against me. He still hasn't set up any defense curls though, which is good. But even after 3 howls, we only do 2 damage to the Geodude. And now as it starts defense curling, we're only doing 1 damage per hit. So it's pretty clear that this Poochyena is not going to get through this. There's just simply no way to actually make this work out. So with that, I think we have hit our limit with Poochyena. If it's not even close to getting through Devin, we know the answer against Roxanne. So I think we just have to give up on this one. Though there is one last strategy though. We could go for Howl into Struggle, since Struggle is physical and typeless. So let me test that out just to see if maybe we can get through with that sort of strategy. So here I am going to go into this fight with 2 howls and see if that allows me to struggle this team down. So here we'll just lead off with howl number 1 and howl number 2. That will double our attack stat. And now as the Geodude used his defense curl, we go struggle, dealing 4 damage here. It keeps going defense curl, but we're just going to sit here and struggle like crazy. We get a nice critical hit there. And as it hits me again, I do have the Oran Berry, so I am getting through the first Geodude at least, getting to level 8. Second Geodude comes out. We do 9 damage with the first struggle, and if it just does something silly, we can actually manage to win there with the struggle strats against Devin. Now, it's worth noting that we got through Devin with the struggle strats there, but we're pretty unlikely to be able to get through Roxanne, and I gotta remember not to heal there. I need to use a potion to heal, but the obvious reason why this is unlikely to work against Roxanne is because she has so much healing on her team that I just don't think that it's going to work out. Still, let's slam some potions just to get back to full health, and let's see what Struggle does against Roxanne here. Then we can mess around a little bit with Howl into Struggle just to see what kind of damage it does. But I'm really not thinking that we're gonna get through here. We just have to test it though. It would be a shame to give up on this Poochyena without at least giving it a chance. So Roxanne attempt number 1, I'm going to go in first using just Struggle. And we can see we did 3 damage to the first Geodude. And we took massive damage back from the Rock Tomb and then Rock Throw into me. So I think we need a miss from the first Geodude with the Rock Tomb. And then what we're hoping is that maybe, just maybe, we can find a way to set up the howls and then go into Struggle. It might take a couple misses, but I'm going to try this out. So we're going to come in with 2 howls here. I'm going to howl once. We get a defense curl. I howl again. We get a Rock Tomb. We get defense curl again from the Geodude now. And then she misses Rock Tomb, but we can see we're still only doing 3 damage because the Geodude keeps using defense curl. We've already used the Oran Berry, So there's just going to be no getting through with that setup. It's just night and day between having Bite here and having Howl into Tackle. The reason it's so night and day, obviously you can flinch the Geodudes. You're dealing neutral damage to the Geodudes with the Bite, and it's the same type move, so it's effectively 90 base power here, whereas the Struggle is only 50 base power. Even though it's typeless, you're taking recoil, but the Geodudes just have too much defense. You don't want a physical move that's causing recoil here. So basically that tells us that Poochyena, while it did a really good job getting to this point, it's ultimately out of there. It just didn't stand a chance. So with the second episode done, we can see that at the end of the day, we ended with 18 Pokemon passing through Roxanne, and now 39 Pokemon have failed. Of course, we lost all of the bug types. They were so bad, I figured we'd just get all the other early game bugs from Gen 2 and Gen 3 out of the way, because it was pretty straightforward they were going to fail. And we also lost all of the normal types and flying types in this episode. The only bright spot was Mightyena getting through with those bite strats with Intimidate. It actually works out just fine to get that Pokemon to the nose pass, and then you just need to get a bunch of accuracy drops on that Pokemon and whittle it down. So very interesting to see how these results are going so far. And next time we're going to be coming with a bunch of challengers from Gen 1, Gen 2, and Gen 3 that I think are going to be a very mixed bag. We're coming in with the Ekans and Arbok, of course, Pikachu and Raichu, which means we'll get Pichu from Gen 2, Sandshrew and Sandslash, the Nidoran female line, the Nidoran male line. So Nidoqueen and Nidoking are going to get their shot here with their resistance against rock type. Chinchou and Lantern could be very interesting depending on what their starting move set is here. Togepi and Togetic will come in. I believe Togetic is going to have access to Metronome, or at least could get it early on, and that could actually give us a chance of getting through here. Then we've got Natu and Xatu, which I think are getting wrecked. I just don't see any way those Pokemon get through. I think they're just going up with the rest of those flying types in the fail column. We'll have to see. But then some Gen 3 Pokemon, we're going to be getting the Lotad line and the Seedot line. So we may be seeing some Pokemon that can actually get through this section of the game, since we're going to have some grass types here. And depending on what Lotad actually starts with, we might even have a water type move or something. I'm not sure, but that could give us a real shot of getting through in this gym. So I think it's going to be a really mixed bag, but I do not predict that we're going to have 0 passers next time. I think we're going to have some of these Pokemon legitimately finding ways to get through. Tell me your predictions in the comment section below. Tell me if you think I got anything wrong in this episode. And I still want to know early predictions out of the Gen 3 Pokemon. How many are actually going to get through this section of the game? There's only going to be one way to find out, which is by testing it. But for now, that does it for this episode. I will see you all in the next one later.